Welcome back to the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant. It is currently like 20 degrees on this set, so pardon my breath if you see it on the camera this week, but needless to say, we have a fantastic show lined up for you this week. First up, we need to talk about the games you may have missed this week. Hollywood takes another swing at video game movies and television shows. We need to talk about the Stadia community transforming an indie game into one of the hottest games around. And finally, the co-creator of Terraria forgot their username and password. All of this and much, much more if we don't freeze to death on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Are you listening?
Welcome back to the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant, and it has been a crazy week in the world of video games. And quite frankly, we had some pretty awesome games released this week as well. So let's talk about the games that were released this week in a reoccurring segment that we like to call Games You May Have Missed. First up this week, let's talk about Little Nightmares 2, a suspense adventure game from Terraria Studios and Bandai Namco. Little Nightmares 2 puts gamers in the role of Mono, a young boy who is trapped in a world that has been distorted by an evil transmission. Together with your new friend Six, you must set out to discover the source of this transmission. Next up, we have Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury for the Nintendo Switch, which is a brand new free-roaming Super Mario game where Bowser has become gargantuan and lost all control. Mario must explore Lake Lapcat, complete objectives, and team up with Bowser Jr. to bring Bowser back to normal. And finally, we have Undermine, which is a dungeon-crawling RPG from Thormium Entertainment, in which players must delve deep into the Undermine, discover its secrets, hundreds of items, and challenge dangerous bosses. Undermine released this week for the Nintendo Switch, but it is also available for the PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Alright, next up, let's talk about Skyclimber Mania, which, to quote Hulk Hogan here, is running wild, brother. If you were unaware, Skyclimbers is a new multiplayer city-building adventure RPG from developer Paratope. Currently, the game is still under development, but the developer did launch a Kickstarter this week to assist in the funding of the game. Now, originally, the game launched with a goal of $25,000, which was achieved in under 24 hours. In 48 hours, the developer raised $50,000, nearly doubling their original goal. And at the time of filming this video, Skyclimbers has raised a grand total of over $100,000, which honestly makes sense. I mean, this game looks so sick. But interestingly enough, a lot of this game's success has been attributed to the community surrounding Google Stadia. I mean, admittedly, this game caught my attention when the developer tweeted their interest in bringing their game to Stadia. However, the developer reiterated that the support that they have seen on Kickstarter is directly from the Stadia player base. In fact, the developer tweeted, "To put it into perspective, hashtag Team Stadia helped us raise $100,000 in less than 5 days. Your community is strong, dedicated, and probably one of the most positive that we have ever dealt with. Don't listen to the haters. Stadia is a platform that is here to stay." And probably one of the coolest parts about this story is prior to this Kickstarter, Google had no idea who this developer was. In fact, because of the demand from the Stadia community, the developer now has a meeting with Stadia to not only bring the game to Stadia, but on top of that, there is interest about the game being part of the Stadia Makers program. And a few weeks ago, we had this conversation of people saying Stadia is dead, and this to me is proof that it definitely is not. If anything, it proves that the player base is engaged, supportive, and hungry for new games. Something that is important for the future of any platform. I mean, as the developer said, this community is strong, dedicated, and one of the most positive ones around. The Stadia community was capable of turning a crowd-funded game into one of the most highly anticipated games on the platform, which is the polar opposite of what everyone keeps saying. In fact, I have seen tweets from multiple people who are seeing the support for this game from the Stadia community, and this is their first interaction with Stadia outside of hearing nothing but doom and gloom. Plus, think about the message that this sends to other developers considering bringing their game to Stadia. And honestly, I'm just taken away by the community's support for this game, so keep up the support, keep up the positivity, and please, don't forget that actions like this are more impactful on changing platforms than complaining, crying, or yelling. Next up, let's talk about Hollywood, who for my entire life has been trying to adapt the perfect video game movie. I mean, in my lifetime, we've seen the Mario movie, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Warcraft, Resident Evil, Assassin's Creed, and Tomb Raider. And granted, yes, not every video game movie was bad, but we did have Doom, which I have still yet to forgive The Rock for that one. But this week, we received an update on 3 new video game movies who had major casting announcements. First up, Lionsgate announced 4 new members of the Borderlands movie with the likes of Cate Blanchett, who will be playing Lilith, Kevin Hart, who will be playing the role of Roland, Jamie Lee Curtis will be playing Tannis, and Jack Black will be playing Claptrap. Now, one of my favorite games growing up was Twisted Metal, so you could imagine how surprised I was to hear that they're making a TV series about this game, which, my God, this better be rated mature. Well, PlayStation Productions announced this week that Will Arnett has been casted as Sweet Tooth, along with Anthony Mackie being offered a lead role of John. Out of all the gaming movies and shows coming out, quite possibly the most highly anticipated one is the upcoming Last of Us HBO series. And we have learned that Pedro Pascal will be playing Joel in the upcoming Last of Us TV series, and Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones will be playing Ellie. And finally for this week, let's talk about VidCon, a cesspool of social media influencers who allowed their likes, views, and follower accounts to go to their head. In fact, if you've never experienced VidCon, well, enjoy.
What is wrong with you people?
They're asking me.
Back up! I don't even know this stuff. Be quiet, but I'm famous, you're not. So
That doesn't make you any better.
I have a lot more money than you. Okay, so listen to me. You're not famous, you're relevant. You're right. I'm attracted to stuff. I make a lot of money. Famous! Kill yourself!
Now I get it. Bryant, this is a show about video games. Why are you talking about overly entitled influencers? Well, I'm glad you asked. Terraria! And we should preface this by saying this might be the most bizarre story that we have ever covered on this show, and as a guy that did a video where he taste tested the bald head of Kratos, that's saying a lot. If you're unaware of what we're talking about, this week the co-creator behind Terraria recently expressed his frustration surrounding Google via a tweet storm and then proceeded to cancel his game's development for Stadia via a tweet. I mean, typically people use Twitter to yell at airlines about losing their bags, but canceling video games, I guess it's kind of cool. Andrew Spinks tweeted, "Google, my account has now been disabled for over 3 weeks. I still have no idea why. And after using every resource I have to get this resolved, you have done nothing but given me the runaround. My phone has lost access to thousands of dollars of apps on Google Play. I had just bought Lord of the Rings 4K and can't finish it. My Google Drive data is completely gone. I can't access my YouTube channel. The worst of all is losing access to my Gmail address of over 15 years. I absolutely have not done anything to violate your terms of services, so I can take this no other way than you deciding to burn this bridge. Consider it burned. Terraria for Google Stadia is canceled. My company will no longer support any of your platforms moving forward." Now, in all seriousness, obviously this sucks, and I totally understand Andrew's frustration. Granted, I don't think not being able to watch Lord of the Rings in 4K would be part of my starting lineup, but hey, I get it. I guess the problem that I have with this whole situation is just the fact that, much like the influencer at VidCon, Andrew was using his influence from a place of entitlement. Like, take Andrew's tweet and replace Google with Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Target, or TJ Maxx, and this would be defined as a stereotypical internet Karen. And look, like I said, I get it. The argument can be made. Google should have seen Andrew as a valued partner and taken care of his issues. I mean, he's bringing one of the most popular games in the world to Stadia. But it should also be pointed out, Google has some insane number, like 1 billion active daily users. And on top of that, all of their companies are run individually. So while yes, his YouTube account has been disabled, punishing Stadia really isn't going to solve anything. That's like punishing Dr. Pepper because you're pissed off at Sprite. In fact, Andrew, last I checked, YouTube is doing just fine claiming ad revenue off of Terraria Let's Play videos. If you really wanted to harm YouTube, why don't you just copyright claim all of those videos? I guarantee you, YouTube would take notice of that. But instead, Andrew removed his game from Google Stadia, fully knowing that he would be giving all of the negative outlets one more thing to complain about, one more story to bash Stadia with, when at the end of the day, the Stadia team has no control over your Google account being banned. The fact is, the Stadia team has no more control over why Andrew was banned than Fitbit or Nest doorbell employees do. But it is interesting. Why didn't we see Andrew attacking Nest doorbell? Is that because he knew that a story like this of a developer removing their game from Stadia the week after the closure of Stadia Games Entertainment would gain more traction and create a bigger story, which would ultimately cause the situation to be resolved faster? And look, it's a free world, but needless to say, this is not how adults get things done. If anything, as one of those people who have never played your game before, it genuinely makes me never want to touch it. Because seeing a leader of a company lose their mind on Twitter and behave so unprofessionally, in my eyes, it makes you no different than this guy.
Look, what are you wearing? You're disgusting. Kill yourself. Shut the fuck up. Did he actually? No guy. He was working. Shut the fuck up. That is disgusting. Hey, you're ugly as fucking irrelevant. You make no money.
Well, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you to the Nerf Report best friends who make content just like this possible. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.